faded. Right. I've been
Nah, I done grew up. I was gonna say, nah, I grew up about some people living in life.
She was in the dark room, sipping another sip. I will not. Why you always running on 2 or 3 shots? I'll show you how to turn it up a notch.
First you get a swimming pool full of liquor, then you dive in it.
Save a few bottles. Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TB. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire. What was the thing we talked about last time that I said I needed to add?
I don't remember. That's a tough question.
Dang
it's been 2
it.
weeks, bro.
And that's
took
on
a little
me. I'll
vacay.
explain. But Jody, I messed up the intro again. It's cool. Weekly event now.
It's all good.
How you feeling, Joe?
I'm good, man. I just, before we get rolling into this episode, leading into the Super Bowl, I just want to say, whether you're new here or you've been here since day one, I'm going to need you to hit that subscribe button on either YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're getting this from. Because I'm going to be honest, I was looking at the numbers, right? And last month, we did our best on downloads. We had a record high right there, but we done lost a follower, and I don't know how that adds up. I was like, how do we do numbers, but we're not gaining no new people, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna need y'all to go hit that button, tell us what you leave a review, and I think Apple does that, maybe Spotify too. Drop one of those, and let's get it rolling, broski.
Yeah, we can't get better if you don't tell us what you want to hear. All right,
that's what I'm saying.
So speaking of our short vacay, we did not record an episode last week after the championship games before the Pro Bowl. One, because it's kind of a dead week, let's be honest. But two, because your boy became extremely ill and I had to make a trip to the ER. So it kind of ruined our plans in terms of recording. And so my guy Jody was gracious enough to just say, "Hey, bro, take the week off. We'll come back next week before the Super Bowl."
We'll hit it next week when it matters again.
But appreciate all of you who are listening and stick with us even when things like that happen. We had planned to give you a fun episode reviewing the championship games and then doing a little Pro Bowl draft. But instead, we'll hit it today. We're going to talk a lot of stuff. Number one, we're going to talk about all the coaching hires in this cycle and what we like, what we don't like, what we think could be good in the future for your team. We're going to talk about some tales from the championship games since we didn't get to do a full review of those games. Just give you some some quick tidbits, some quick thoughts. And then we'll go full Super Bowl preview. Anything and everything you could possibly think of before the game will be here on the agenda tonight.
It's gonna be a fun one for sure.
I got to give a shout out. To my girl hooking us up. We got the new Second and Two podcast Neon Light behind me tonight. First time. It's a debut for it. Pretty sweet.
No better time than the big game, I guess. I guess we don't. It doesn't matter to us. We don't got no ads, but we can say Super Bowl. Unlike some people we listen to, but it's funny that they gotta work their way around that one these days.
But I will say before we recorded, the Neon Light, it's on its lowest setting right now. And it is still blinding me with the glare through my computer screen. So if you ever see me blinking really hard, if you're watching on YouTube, that's why. Just so you know, no secrets here.
You got to throw on sunglasses and be like our guy PFT.
And just block out the haters.
Yeah, exactly. Future's too bright.
All right, so let's dive right in here, Joe. We're gonna talk coaching carousel right now. And it finally stopped. We got some guys matched up with some teams. Yeah. So we got to talk about it. And the last hire did happen late last week. What happened after we had recorded, if we had recorded last week anyway, so we didn't miss out on anything there. This was always kind of the plan. So what we're going to do, Jody, we're going to go through every coach, and I'm just going to rate the hire on an old school elementary A through F scale and tell you why.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It. So it looks like first on the paper, we got the Patriots getting Gerard Mayo. What are your thoughts on that hire?
Okay, so Gerard Mayo, he's young. He's a former player. He's well liked by all accounts. A lot of people in the organization were extremely excited when that hire happened. I've heard a lot of things essentially saying that like Gerard Mayo thinks like a CEO. He's a CEO style coach, which we don't get many of now. Right? There's really two styles of head coaches. There is the brilliant play caller, whether it's on offense or defense, that is going to really control that one side of the ball. And then,
Andy Reid.
Real recognize real, they're going to find someone to run that other side for them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Now they're going to take care of all the head coach stuff, but really when you look at the breakdown, there's the head coach's side of the ball and then like the coordinator on the other side, right? And that's kind of how things. You look at what Sean McVay's done with the Rams. He's always taken care of the offense. He's found the brilliant play caller on defense, whether it was Wade Phillips or Raheem Morris or Brandon Staley, whoever, right? He's had successful coordinators on the other side.
Isn't he back? Well, you mentioned it.
Brandon Staley?
Yeah.
He's not back with the Rams. He's interviewing right now. He's going to be someone's DC. He'll be someone's DC. And then you look at like other examples of that with the Bengals, right? You got Zach Taylor. He really runs the offense. He lets Lou Anarumo run the defense, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's really new. That's a last 10 years type of thing, right? Prior to that, a lot more often than not, you had true CEO head coaches. And you have that less and less now.
Just the face.
But they run the show. They run the operation of everything.
Mm-hmm.
The entire team flows through them. They have their three coordinators, offense, defense, special teams, but all game plans flow through them at the end of the day, right? And again, even when you have a play caller, it's not to say that stuff doesn't happen. It's just different. It's a little bit different breakdown. All right, so Gerard Mayo, by all accounts, he's described as this old school CEO type coach in a new school mindset, right?
Okay.
Now, the big thing for him that's going to be tough, the guy is following Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Okay. And right now, the team is fairly devoid of talent. There's a true rebuild that needs to happen. So his job is not easy. However, he seems fit for the job. So I'm giving this hire a B+. The reason being, a couple things. Number one, they really didn't conduct a search because they had it written into his contract that he was always going to be, secretly sort of written in that he was always going to be the guy to take the job if Bill ever left, right? That's how they were able to hire him so quickly. That also speaks volumes to what Robert Kraft thinks of Gerard Mayo, that, hey, we don't need a search whenever this happens, okay? The second thing is what I mentioned earlier, the toughness of the job that he has to follow Bill Belichick, okay? No one really wants to do that. Especially when the team is not built to go win right now. Okay. Yeah. So he's got a tough job.
A lot of rebuild.
So rating it, putting that all together, B+. I like the hire. Okay. Who we got next?
All right. Next, we're looking at Titans. They got Brian Callahan. Where is he from? I don't even know that name from nothing.
So we brought up the Bengals earlier. He was the Bengals OC. Okay. So I'll be honest, probably my least favorite hire of all of them. He was definitely one that came out of left field. He's had some interviews the last couple years, but I just don't think of all the young play call or offensive minds. I'm not sure that a lot of people were expecting Brian Callahan to be the one to get a job here in this cycle at least. I think a lot of people told you Ben Johnson right before that. Slowick, exactly right. And but Callahan has interviewed for the last couple of years for head coaching jobs. He's young. He's an offensive mind. They haven't had an offensive minded head coach in Tennessee in quite some time. Obviously, he is replacing Vrabel though, right? And Vrabel did a really good job. I know there was a falling out in terms of ownership, and Rand Carthon, their new GM, who was hired about this time last year. And I think from everything that we've read, there might have been a power struggle there in terms of what Vrabel wanted, what the GM and ownership wanted. And there was all that was tough to get them all on the same page. And at the end of the day, looked like, they said, hey, we're going to go find someone who is more aligned with what we're trying to do with the organization. Right. And they decided that was Brian Callahan.
Kind of weird.
I think it's not that I think Brian Callahan's a bad coach. I don't want anyone to think that. I'm not giving this an F. It's just that the experience factor. We don't have a lot to go off of with Brian Callahan. We don't really know a lot. And I do think Tennessee is another situation where it's a little bit of a rebuild. Now, I think they feel like they've got the guy in Will Levis at quarterback. That's huge.
That's true.
They've recently added talent on the offensive line. I love Peter Skoronski, who they drafted last year. So there's some good stuff there that they can build upon. They're also going to have to kind of rebuild their offensive skill positions. The AJ Brown trade still hurts right now.
Derrick Henry's probably on the move.
Henry's probably going out the board. Yeah, I love Tyjae Spears, who they drafted last year.
Yeah, definitely he's all around.
But ultimately, there's going to be a lot of stuff they're going to have to rebuild, and this is not an easy job, in my opinion. So, in total, I put all that together. I'm giving this hire a C+, and I'm ranking it the worst hire of the cycle. And when I say hire, it's not necessarily just the head coach. It's also the pairing with the franchise that they're at and how tough a job I think they might have.
Is at the moment. Yeah, that makes sense. So next up, we're looking at Vegas, the place hosting the Super Bowl. And it's our guy Antonio Pierce. He was the interim. Now he's got the reins. They hired him, which is nice. I know Max Crosby definitely happy about that one.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I'm thrilled to see a young black head coach, former player, get this opportunity because it's felt like in recent years that hasn't been happening. So I was pretty excited when I saw that they did give him this job. I also expected it. I thought this is what they would do, thought it's what they should do, quite frankly.
It definitely made sense, especially the way they closed out the year.
Yeah, you look at the fact that he's a former player. That's the idea of nowadays reaching players. It used to be like there's the player's coach and then the hard coach. I think nowadays this breed of player that you have to be a player's coach. Now that doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable, and that doesn't mean you don't coach them hard. There's just you have to build a relationship with your players, and if you've been through the wars, I think you automatically earn some respect.
Yeah.
And also it allows players to trust you quicker. So I think Antonio Pierce has that going for him. He was well liked by the stars. Obviously, Max Crosby said, hire this man or trade me.
I'm out. Yeah.
He stood on the table for that. That's standing on the table, man.
That's standing on business.
Yeah. And, he had a good finish of the year. And then the last part of it, you heard a lot of people talk about this when he was hired as the interim. Antonio Pierce kind of has that attitude to him, right? I don't know if you remember during I think it was Sunday Night Football, maybe it was Thursday Night Football, I can't remember. One of the primetime games this year, they talked about how his team was the high school team, Long Beach Poly, that he was coaching, how he made them run gassers at halftime because of the way they were behaving, even though they were winning by 40 or something like that. Ended up beating this team by 60 or something. And he had that team running gassers at halftime. He carries kind of an attitude of this is how we're going to play football. And that's why he's a player's coach, but he's going to hold them accountable. Clearly, I know there's a difference between high school kids and NFL players, but you can see he has standards and he's going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of that idea of the Raider way, I think he has the attitude and mentality. He could bring a little bit of that back. So I really like this hire. I think he fits Vegas. I think he fits their culture. The players who are currently there seem to really like him. So I think you put all that together. I'm giving this hire an A-, and I like the pairing.
Yeah, I will say I guess he was on Pat McAfee today, and I heard just a little snippet of it, and I knew it was his voice just based off the tone, and I was like, that man it just speaks volumes. I knew it was his voice. in like 2 seconds. You know what I mean? And I didn't even hear it from the start. My buddy was listening to it, then he took out his AirPod so like I could hear too. And so it's just crazy, like the not tone, but like the weight that gets carried from his voice. I don't know. I can't think of a better word
Yeah.
right now. But yeah. The next up, we're looking at the Chargers, which you know who their head coach is, near and dear to your heart, Jim Harbaugh. Looks like this is the best one of the night, so I want to hear why you gave this one the A+.
Okay, Chargers fans, get ready to be excited. I know you guys have been let down before. I know it's been a tough stretch, right? A tough 20
Yeah,
plus
definitely.
years. You gotten your hopes up for the likes of LT, Antonio Gates, Phillip Rivers, right? Norv Turner, all of it. You got Justin Herbert, and you just paired him with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has won everywhere he's been. USD, Stanford, San Francisco 49ers, Michigan. Now he's with the Los Angeles Chargers, right? This guy has won everywhere he's been as a head coach. It doesn't matter the level. It doesn't matter the talent pool he inherits. The guy finds a way to win, right? And it usually happens within the first few years. You're a legitimately contending program. Now everyone's going to say,
Yeah.
well, it took him 9 years to win a national championship at Michigan. It took him 6 years to beat Ohio State. All that's true.
That
All that's
sounds
true.
like me.
But like,
I said that
he
as a
took
joke.
over.
I know. I just wanted to see what you would say.
He took over a Michigan program that, quite frankly, after the Rich Rod era, was pretty
Uh-huh.
much in shambles, right?
Uh-huh.
And Brady Cook made it a little better. It wasn't good, and he took it over. And it only took him 2-3 years to make them legitimately competitive. I mean, that by 2016, he had them in that game with Ohio State where they lost on the 4th and 1. That looked like Ohio State didn't get it, and had they won that game, they're in the playoffs. So he had them right there pretty quickly. And he did eventually get over the hump. That's the thing. He did win a national championship. He did that, right? You know, he had Stanford upsetting
Yeah,
USC.
true.
He had the Niners in the NFC championship
Andrew
like
Luck,
every year, right?
also true.
So
Made to the Super Bowl
I
versus brother.
think you put all that together. Plus, the reason he left, he had a cushy gig at Michigan. He could have retired there. He would have
Yeah,
been beloved.
definitely.
He didn't have to
Especially after
prove
winning.
anything else in his career.
Yeah.
But you know what the guy wants? You know why he left? He wants a
A
freaking
ring.
Super Bowl. He wants
Yeah.
a ring. And he said you can't win a world championship in college football like you can in the NFL. And that's why he left. The man is
Yeah.
hungry. You put all that together with the talent the Chargers already have, specifically Justin Herbert. This is
Yeah.
a home run. This is a home run pairing. It's an A+. It's the best hire of the cycle.
Now, who do you think they take in the draft? I know this is skipping ahead a lot of months right here, but I've been seeing the mock drafts, and it looks like they're taking the receiver. So, do you think that's smart, or do you think they build the O line? I think they should go O line in my eyes, but
See, if people who have them taking a receiver,
they got too
I don't
many.
know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Have you watched Michigan and Jim Harbaugh in recent years?
Yeah, running the ball.
Yeah, don't be surprised if they take a running back, bro. Right?
Did you see?
No.
Okay,
And
since we're
here's the
talking
thing,
running back, did you see
Chargers fans,
Saquon?
just
He said he's like Saquon would be nice to have,
I did
which is
see that.
crazy. Think about.
hmm I did. Just a Chargers fan, don't stress. Sit back and enjoy the offseason. No matter what you think of any move, the guy knows how to build winning football. The taking the receiver is what you guys did last year. How'd
Yeah,
that work
true.
out with Quentin Johnson? I'm
Ooh,
sorry. Okay.
ooh.
He can still revive his career. And you know who might be able to do that is Jim Harbaugh. But my point being, you're gonna do things differently, Chargers fans. Just enjoy the ride, okay? Because it's gonna work out for you.
It's their year.
Who we got
I'm
next?
calling. The next one we got is the Panthers. Looks like they got Dave Canales, and he was a OC. What was it? I don't remember
Tampa.
where. Tampa. I was gonna say Miami, but I knew that was not the answer.
So I'm gonna be honest. I've been pretty impressed with Dave Canales this year. When Tampa hired him to be their OC and paired him with Baker, I was
Yeah.
kind of curious about that. I wasn't sure how he would do. I knew he had done some good things in Seattle. He had obviously worked with Geno Smith, the year before, and Geno had really, kind of broken back out. But
Yeah. True.
um, and so I was curious to see what he would do. I think the thing that I like about him is he brings great energy and he breeds belief and confidence. You can hear Baker Mayfield has talked about this, and in
Uh
terms
huh.
of hey, Dave did things that I liked. He made sure I felt confident. We ran plays that I felt good about, that he
Hmm.
was confident in. We built a lot of that together. I think he's a very collaborative coach.
That
Um,
makes sense.
he's kind
That's
of that
good.
new school, young, high energy type of guy. And it felt like the Panthers have been stagnant for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
you know, that may be more about their owner than it has been about their head coach or
True.
the GM
I mean,
previous.
he doesn't give their coaches any time to fix anything. That you get in 2 years, you got some losing records. All right, later.
Yeah, because I would tell you that Matt Rule and Frank Reich are two guys that I really respect
Yeah,
in coaching. So, which is not to say that they did a good job. They obviously didn't get the job done, right? Okay, we're not saying
true.
that, but I do think the change of pace with Dave Canales is good, and it's huge for Bryce Young because you got to get that
Definitely.
fixed. You got to help him.
Yeah.
He's a guy who's got a lot of talent, and last year he was kind of left on an island by himself. So you got to figure that out. And I think Dave Canales is a guy who can do that, and he's got the energy to take on this task. Because let's be honest, the Panthers' job was the worst one that was open.
Definitely.
You don't have your first round
Has
pick
been for
this year.
years.
Your
Yeah.
offensive line is brutal. You're coming off a team that has hired. This is the third coach in 3 years now, with an
Mhm.
owner that has kind of shown that he might meddle in a lot of this stuff. Okay, so
Yeah.
it was not a desirable job, and yet I think Dave Canales is the right guy for it. Like I said, he did a good job with Baker and Geno. I think he can do a good job with Bryce Young and build something special there. So for that reason, I actually gave this hire a B. I think there may be people who are surprised about that, but I'm telling you, I really do like Dave Canales for that franchise.
Yeah, I will say you kind of sold me on just like if you don't even think about him being the head coach. If you look at the quarterback situations he's had with
Mhm.
Baker alone, that makes
That's why
perfect
it's so
sense to bring him
important.
in with Bryce Young because
Mhm.
probably similar in stature. Bryce Young's obviously a little bit lighter, but similar height, and the dude's young. He's definitely got all the coachability you could have and want out of a player. So I think that makes perfect sense. Next up, though, it looks like we're looking at the Falcons, who got Raheem Morris from our beloved franchise, LA, and took him out. And he took the OC too. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna join my homie over there. Seems like we got
Mhm.
good things
Zach
going.
Robinson.
Yeah,
Um, I was really I mean, I was excited for Harbaugh, right? I was
yeah,
excited for Antonio Pierce, but of anybody who I felt like deserved this job in this cycle, it was Raheem Morris. I know he's been a head coach before and it didn't go well. That was also like
yeah.
10 years ago when he was in
That's
Tampa.
crazy.
I mean, and he was so impressive as a young coach that he got that job really young. And he said himself, I think that, hey, maybe he was a little young, maybe he wasn't quite ready. But that
Yeah.
experience and then being on staff since then, right? He was on the Falcons staff when they went to the Super Bowl. He was
True.
the Rams DC when they won the Super Bowl, right? He's done a
Mm-hmm.
lot of really good things since then in his career. And you had, it really stuck with me when they asked Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, like, hey, who would you hire right now if you need a head coach? And both those guys, without a doubt, no hesitation, said, oh, Raheem Morris.
Yeah.
Like, one, coming from McVay, maybe we expect that. That's the guy who he works for, right? They
Yeah.
have a great
True.
relationship, obviously. Coming from Shanahan, who's an in-division rival who has to see
Mm-hmm.
that defense 2 times a year, no, come on now, right? There's no greater respect.
True.
And I think his peers knew he's that guy. I saw a
Uh-huh.
lot, from the Rams organization. Kevin Nemoff, their president, was like really talking about Raheem should be a head coach. He's ready. He's been ready.
Yeah.
He's like a mark of excellence, right? And so I'm really excited for him. I think his experience as a former head coach, winning a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator, the job he did this year with that really young Rams defense, and they got better every week. And then the ties that he has to McVay in terms of now he can bring that offense. As you mentioned, they hired Zach
Yeah.
Robinson, who's the pass game coordinator in LA, to be the OC there. You bring that offense with you, and then you add it to the talent that they have there.
Oh yeah,
with
they just need a
Bijan
quarterback,
and
and
Drake London.
you're
Yep, you got to
rolling.
figure out the quarterback thing. But then also the talent they have on defense. Like Raheem Morris is going to do some really good stuff with some of those guys they've brought in on defense. So
Yeah,
ultimately, man, I think this Falcons team could be really good like quickly. So
yeah,
I was really excited
makes
about this
sense.
hire. I graded it as an A.
Yeah, no, yeah, it seems like a good spot to be in, especially being defensive minded. Their defense was pretty solid last year. It was just the QB situation that would make the games wishy washy. But the
Mm-hmm.
next team we're taking a look at is going to be the Seahawks, and they got Mike McDonald. McDonald?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. Hopefully, I said that right. And he's from the Ravens, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The
The
Ravens DC. The last 2 years before that, the Michigan DC. So he loves the Harbaughs. But he's a young he is the foil to all these young offensive minds being hired right now.
uh-huh.
Like there's no
That makes
better
sense.
young defensive mind in the game. I mean, I'm
Excuse me.
the guy went from being like not even a position coach on the Ravens staff. He was like an analyst or whatever. Like he was low man on the totem pole in the Ravens staff
Uh-huh.
to Michigan DC to Ravens DC to head coach in 4 years.
That's crazy. So my dude
No
wasn't
one's had
even
a more
like,
meteoric rise than that. Like, I mean, it reminds me of what McVay did when he was in Washington. He's like the tight ends coach. Oh, now he's the OC. All of a sudden, he's the Rams head coach, and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? And
yeah.
it was because like people who got this guy in a room realized, oh my gosh, he's brilliant. Like he knows his stuff. And I think he mirrors, what like I was talking about earlier, younger coaches that understand how to build these relationships with their players and get the most out of them. Every
Uh-huh.
Baltimore Raven on defense talked about how much they love Mike McDonald, right? So
Mhm.
I think he's the perfect foil to, the Rams having McVay in division, the 49ers having Shanahan in division,
Yeah.
right? Like and the Shanahan tree struggled, by the way, against his defense this year. Shanahan himself, Bobby Slowick with the Texans, all these teams
True.
struggled against that defense. So he's, I guess you could call him the Shanahan stopper, whatever, right? But it makes so much sense for Seattle. They've got great organizational structure. I'm not surprised they made a hire that I really like. So ultimately, man, it's an A.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, maybe we see some ties to the old Legion of Boom out there with the defensive head coach. Who knows? Let's see. Lastly, on the docket today, we got the Commanders. They hired Dan Quinn. He's from the Cowboys. Looks like he gave him a B minus, and also another in division coach, which is kind of crazy.
Um, here's the thing with Dan Quinn. It's a little up and down, but the guy went to a Super Bowl as a head coach.
Um,
He had some great defenses in Dallas, like fantastic.
true.
The big thing has been the last couple of years in the playoffs is defenses haven't performed great and they haven't finished, which is a similar theme to that Falcons team he took to the Super Bowl that couldn't finish that game.
Yeah,
So there's
tough.
there's there's some really good stuff that I like about Dan Quinn. There's some stuff that it kind of goes, up and down. Like I said, you hope that the experience he brings will help stabilize Washington a little bit and make them. They just haven't been a very good franchise for a while now, let's be honest. And
Yeah.
so you hope that combined with the fact that he did bring in a legit OC, and I think that, we'll see who they draft at quarterback, more than likely at the top of the draft here.
Yeah.
But I do think there's some good stuff to like, but it is a little up and down. So for that reason, I gave it a B minus.
I will
And
I will say it's kind of tough that they kind of sold all their defensive dudes and now they bring in Dan Quinn. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
yeah,
It's kind of a tough situation to start in to begin with in my eyes.
yeah, and we'll see. He's got plenty of draft capital. He's got a lot of cap room though. So that's the other thing. You
Mm,
put all that together, and that job isn't necessarily one that was undesirable. I think there was a lot of things to like about it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so we'll see what DQ can do in DC. But yeah, you look at it. I think this is a pretty good hiring cycle, to be honest with you. I think we're going to see some successes.
I hope so. Yeah, get the ball rolling quick, make the league more enjoyable because there's gonna be a lot more competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Way you do that quicker. But let's see. We're gonna get into the is this recap from 2 weeks ago? Is that what this is? Yeah.
Yeah, we got a little tales from the AFC Championship here. Anybody who listens to the Ryan Russillo podcast, he's got Tales from the Couch. He talks about NBA hoops, So this is a little play on that, but just some thoughts that I had from these championship games that, like I said, we didn't do a full recap, so I want to give my thoughts really quick, which will lead us into the Super Bowl preview.
Definitely.
We'll start in the AFC Championship game. Mahomes started out completely on fire. He played
10 for
great.
10 or something.
Yeah, he played great against that Ravens defense. The big thing is they were winning on the outside whenever the Ravens played man, and Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice were fantastic in the game, and we will cover some of that in our Super Bowl preview. You'll see some film here. But, I think Mike McDonald then adjusted as the game went on. He started bringing pressure, but playing zone behind it, less man. So you started getting some fire zones, but then also you started getting simulated pressure where it looks like, oh, they're going to bring a fifth rusher from this side, right? But then he drops out and they bring, the fifth guy from here. Or, hey, it looks like they're bringing four and you got a three-man front. We're going to blitz here, but, oh, no, we're going to drop out. We're going to bring it here, right? So they got more creative and not showing their hand so early, but also being able to play zone on the back end. They were better when they played zone. Kyle Hamilton is insane. The man is everywhere. Like, in the second half, I thought I was watching 2007 Troy Polamalu. Like, Kyle Hamilton's, that's his comp. That's the only thing that's the only safety I've ever seen who could play and do all the things he does. And that's no disrespect to any of the other safeties. There are maybe better safeties doing the things they did. But like, if you think about Troy Polamalu, the thing that made him amazing was you could see him at the line of scrimmage, and then before the snap, he's in the middle of the field. Or you could see him at 20 yards deep, but before the snap, he's jumping over the line and making a tackle in the backfield.
Which was crazy to see.
He felt like he could be everywhere at once. That was Kyle Hamilton in this game. I'm telling you, he popped. You didn't even have to be looking for him, and you'd be like, oh, another Kyle Hamilton play. There was like a 3-play series where it was like PBU Kyle Hamilton, tackle for a 1-yard loss, Kyle Hamilton. Oh, they targeted Kyle Hamilton, and it was blanketed, so the ball goes thrown out of bounds. Three and out. And it was like, oh my gosh, Kyle Hamilton made every play. So he's a star. I was just really impressed, though, with Kansas City's defense. I was disappointed, though, in Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. Obviously, outside that one big play he had early in the game. Tough game for Zay Flowers as well. Good reminder that the Chiefs secondary, they're elite, man. They are elite. And ultimately, I think the Ravens made a lot of mental mistakes. I think they were a little too amped up for the game. And so they made a lot of bad mistakes. And the Chiefs' experience just showed up in that they knew in the second half, they didn't necessarily have to get sexy to win. Like, hey, we can sit on it and we'll play a game that doesn't give you extra opportunities to go beat us. Our defense is playing so well that Mahomes didn't take any chances in the second half.
Not at all.
He only took a real big shot, and that was at the end of the game, and that was the killer to MVS.
Yeah.
And they made the plays when they needed to. So ultimately, those are kind of my takeaways. The Ravens defense is still elite. Mahomes is an amazing decision maker, and Todd Monken could have had a better game plan. It's kind of what I came away with.
Yeah, I think Lamar probably should have ran the ball a little bit more frequently than he did. It looked like he got caught guessing too many times. Should I throw it? Should I run? And then, you lose like 4 or 5 yards. And then Zay Flowers, that was tough at the goal line, getting the ball popped out. That was a shot to the heart for sure. Tough game. But let's see, the NFC, the Lions-Niners. What a game, huh? Niners making the comeback.
That game was tough for your boy to watch.
Excited for this one.
It's tough for your boy to watch. Okay, let's start with this. The Lions, they had the 49ers defense on their heels for basically the first 6 drives. I went back and looked at it. They scored 3 touchdowns. They had the field goal. They punted once, and they turned it over on downs once. Okay, so this is their first 6 drives extend through the first drive of the second half.
Yeah.
but they gained at least 29 yards on each of their first 6 drives.
Mm.
Um, and essentially, had 24 points in 6 drives. So that's pretty good, man. I mean, they
Not a
had
bad
that
start.
49ers defense on their heels. They were
Yeah.
running every trick play worked. I mean, it was all Ben Johnson was in the bag early. From the Lions' perspective, I think everyone's going to point out the fourth down decisions.
Yeah. For
Um,
sure.
I think kicking the field goal at the end of the half was the absolute right choice because that's a zero-sum game there. If you go for it and don't get it, you're right at halftime, so you don't get the benefit of them being on like the 2-yard line and
Mhm.
having to drive the field, right? You get nothing. So I think taking the points there was the right move. I liked that. You wanted to come going to halftime with those points. Again, you want to have something to show for that drive. At least in a normal circumstance, if you go for it there and don't get it, the other team's on the 1-yard line, 2-yard line, right? And so now you force them to drive the field. You're expecting, hey, we're going to get great field position coming back anyway.
Yeah, true.
When it's right near halftime, you don't get that. So I like the field goal there to go up 24-7 in a halftime. I thought that was smart. In the second half, I liked both decisions to go for it. You have 4th and 2 from the San Francisco 28. So that would have been a 45-yard field goal, or 4th
Yeah.
and 3 from the San Francisco 30. That's a 47-yard field goal. Here's the big reason I liked both those choices to go for it.
Yeah.
Michael
Definitely.
Badgley, he's 77% on field goals between 40 and 49 in his career. And these are both on the farther back end of that 40 to 49, right?
Yeah,
We talked about
definitely.
45 and 47. And the Lions were 15 of 20, or 75%, on 4th and 3 or fewer during 2023, and they were 2 for 2 in the playoffs in those
Yeah.
situations. So if we're saying the percentages are equal in terms of conversion,
Yeah.
then to me, the payoff is much greater when you go for it than
Yeah. No doubt.
kicking the field goal, and the risk was the same. So everyone's
Not
saying,
I
"Oh,
think
they should
going
have kicked
for
the
it's a
field
little
goal."
better.
They likely they just as likely missed the field goal as they
Yeah.
them
And
not
then they
getting
get
that
better
4th and
field
2.
position than where the ball was.
So in my mind, I liked the payoff of those, and because again, it's greater with the risk being essentially the same.
Mhm.
I think where the Lions truly messed up, and many people have pointed this out, I'm not acting like I'm the first one to say this, but it was the 3rd down run near the goal line at the end of the game that forced them to use their first timeout. Because once they did that under the 2-minute warning, you're basically saying, if we score, the only way you can get it back is an onside kick. But if
Yeah.
they'd had all 3 timeouts, if they'd just thrown 4 times, because they did score on 4th down throwing the ball. So if you just throw the ball 4 times there and it's either a touchdown or incomplete, well, now you could have had all 3 timeouts. You could have had a last-ditch shot at getting the ball back. So, from the 49ers perspective, I think Brock Purdy continues to be the talking point. It's everyone's favorite right now. My greater worry for them is their defense.
Yeah, that's
They
for
no
sure.
longer consistently get pressure with only 4, and their secondary isn't quite as good as it was a couple years ago. They're still trying to rely on that front 4 to get pressure without bringing extra guys, but it's just not getting home as much when you look in the
Yeah.
numbers. Now, people are going to say, well, they have the same sack numbers. Yeah, but teams are throwing the ball more on them, so their sack percentage is a lot lower than it has been. And we'll get to that when we
Okay.
talk about that Super Bowl matchup. But I do think this could be a problem in the Super Bowl. And then it
Yeah.
puts a lot of pressure on Purdy. If Mahomes is scoring a lot and Purdy has to match him, he hasn't been
Maybe it's in a
consistent
match.
in the playoffs. Now
Yeah.
he's avoided critical errors, and sometimes kind of luckily because he's had guys drop picks, but he's really been clutch when they've needed him at the same time. So you got to, as much as I might give him some grief here, I also will give him the credit for being successful in those clutch moments when they've needed it. So
Yeah.
the question is, if the 49ers can't get pressure with 4 and Mahomes is doing his thing, can Purdy match him? Is he good enough to do that right now in the Super Bowl? We may find out. So, yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, did you have anything on the NFC Championship, Joe?
I think the Niners caught a big break. They were definitely getting smoked early on. I think this is one of the first times we've seen the Niners come back from this big of a deficit in general,
Yep.
which is also pretty crazy. I mean, the it seems like Brandon Ayuk shows out at the end of games recently. I don't know why he's not utilized more early on. Maybe they just run the ball, and then once it's time to come, it's like, all right, let's start throwing it. I don't know. From this game, though, I think that it was basically, like you said, the fourth downs are what kind of killed them in the end. It was like what was good, it was working, and then you kind of decided, do you want to kick? Now let's just, I don't know. The inconsistency and that kind of shot him in the foot, and I guess their defense too. In the end, we talked about them on and off. That the defense was looking bad. They got better, and then to let up that many points in the second half is kind of tough too.
Yeah. All right. So with all that being said, it's time, dude. Let's preview the
Yeah,
Super Bowl, the last game of the year. This is generally the week where I start getting depressed because we have no
there
more
ain't no
football
more
until
football.
August.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
I know it. This is the last game. This is all we get, and we just hope and pray for a great one. If we're gonna go out,
Yeah,
let's go out on a bang. And we got one last year. We got one the year before. Like the last couple games have been awesome. So let's hope that trend continues with the Super Bowls here. All right, let's start here. The over under, Joey, is 47 and a half.
kind of high. I'm not gonna lie. I
Kind of
mean,
high. We will likely reveal how we like over or under each year at the end when we give you our score prediction. But
yeah, true.
if you just had an initial lean when you saw that number, how were you feeling?
I was thinking, honestly, I kind of might have talked myself into the under. So I think it definitely says you should take the under, no doubt. But that, later on we'll see how I truly feel about that statement. But yeah, I think the more shocking thing is who's favorited with the Niners being -1.5, probably two. I've heard two in recent times.
It's moved around. This
Yeah,
was
definitely.
from ESPN as of this morning.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
yeah.
mean,
It could be
I've
two, it
seen
could
it
be
as
one and a
high
half.
as 2.5 for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Niners,
I think that's
but
where it
it's
started,
always been the Niners as
which is
favorites.
crazy to
That
me.
stayed pretty consistent over the week and a half since they revealed the line. Um, yeah, I'm with you. It is a little surprising. I still think people are kind of like, I don't know about that Chiefs receiver group.
Yeah, but
And
I
people
mean, they
really
made
like
it
the
this far
Niners.
with that same group.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll talk about it. Trust me, I'll give you what I think. Um, let's start here. The Super Bowl is known for all the prop bets you can get, and we're going to give you some fun ones later. But Jody, let's start on the 49ers side. Um, what are some bets you like going into the game?
All right, so to start it off, I'm looking at Brock Purdy yards. It sits at 247.5. I'm looking at the under on this one. I think for me, I think their keys to success is running the ball, and I don't think they need him throwing the ball all too much, and they gotta be more selective. Maybe kill the clock, keep our guy Patty Mahomes off the field, which is why I like his under on his passing yards. And speaking of running the ball, Christian McCaffrey, I think his line sits at 90.5, which is a little high. Don't get me wrong. I do think it's very doable. But I think what's more important is that we take our guy Debo Samuel to rush over 16.5. He, get some jet sweeps, get him coming off the edge. They even line him up in the backfield every now and again. So I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if he beats that. And while we're on the topic of rushing yards, let's take Christian McCaffrey to get a touchdown. No matter how it is, let's take that. My guy's been automatic for pretty much all year except for one game when Juszczyk took it from him. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a no-brainer. And the closeout with receiving for the 49ers, we're going to take Brandon Ayuk under 4.5 receiving yard. Or, no, sorry, not receiving yard. That'd be crazy.
That'd be
It'd
tough.
be 4.5 receptions. Yeah. That'd be me throwing away money at that point. No,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Brandon Ayuk under 4.5 receptions, and we're going to take George Kittle over his receiving yards at 47.5. That one's
Ooh, I
just,
like.
I talked about the past couple weeks. He's killed that one for I don't know how long. And that's like his go-to guy. So yeah, those are
Mm-hmm.
those are my picks on the Niners side.
I like all of it. and I'm going to talk about the 49ers offense right now so that this all makes sense. But I think the 49ers have a big advantage in the run game. So I love, CMC to get a touchdown. I like them to be maybe less pass heavy than they've been. So I like the Brock Purdy under on yards there. If they are more run heavy, that means the play action game is probably going to be good for them, which means you do like Kittle there. So I do like the over on yards there too as well. The Debo at 16.5 rushing yards is always kind of a fun one because they can always give him the ball. And it may only take one carry for him to get that because he's so explosive, breaks so many tackles. So I like all of it. And with that being said, let's look at the 49ers offense versus the Chiefs defense first off, that side of the ball, okay? When the 49ers are at their best, Shanahan is using creative motions and blocking schemes in the run game. And he's, giving Christian McCaffrey space and getting him the ball consistently. When you see them, once they start doing that, right, what does that set up for them? It's play action, right?
Yeah.
They can get the ball into the middle of the field on the play action game and set up explosive passing plays. They're also good at getting the ball in the perimeter quick and then letting their guys, their playmakers, make plays. All right.
Yeah.
So I like all that, and it's a great setup because we're about to watch them do all three things against the Lions to start the second half. All right, this 3-play series coming out of halftime when they absolutely had to have some points, get themselves back on track. They're down 24-7, right? They've been at the half. They're talking at halftime. Okay, what do we need to do? Okay, well, first thing you got to do is come out creative motion with Kyle or George Kittle and then Kyle Juszczyk. Okay, now we're going to toss it, and we got a lead blocker, and we're zoning that thing out. Boom, 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 getting everyone on the perimeter. Get Christian McCaffrey in space, a 9-yard first down run, right? You can see it from this end. Not one motion, but two. Force the defense to adjust twice, and they're just running zone with the lead, Kyle Juszczyk leading up in the hole, right? Gets them a 9-yard carry on first down. Now they vary their tempo a little bit. They're going to go a little quicker off of that. And what comes next? Play action. You guessed it. And now what does he find in the middle of the field? Deebo Samuel. Now you can see it from this angle. It's a great concept from Shanahan because watch these two linebackers. Again, it's 2nd and 1. You just came off a 9-yard first down run by Christian McCaffrey. So what are they going to do when they see play action here? They got to respect the run game. Look at it. They are both coming up. They're charging. Now, both guys say, it's play action. I got to get back. Too late, dude. You already took too many steps up. Now that window is there for Deebo. And now it's like a 25-yard gain, and it's an explosive pass on second down. Okay, now what did I say the third thing was? Quick game on the perimeter, getting the ball into their guys' hands. And because the thing that Shanahan is also very good at is he recognizes when a guy has some momentum, right? He recognizes when one of his guys is like, specifically Deebo. Deebo's very streaky. Like, Deebo has a big play. You want to get Deebo 3 more touches right after that, right? So who are they going to get the ball to? They run another creative motion, get Deebo on the perimeter.
Straight to the
right. Little high-low read. Purdy makes the right decision, throws it short. Now, this defender, the corner, has him dead to rights. Should be a tackle for actually a 2-yard loss. What does Deebo do? He's so good at breaking that first tackle. Now you got a 10-yard play. So, again, an offense that was essentially lifeless in the first half comes out in the second half and starts it with a 9-yard run, a 25-yard pass, and a 10-yard pass, right? 3 explosive or near explosive plays in a row to get them going, okay? Now, on the flip side, the Chiefs' defense has been elite in the secondary throughout the year because Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Justin Reed, Mike Edwards, those guys play extremely well together. They communicate. They're athletic enough to make a lot of plays with pretty much any receiver group. In the playoffs, they've given up 7 points, 24 points, and 10 points. I don't know if you can do math there, but 13.67 points per game is elite. I know I've used that word twice now when talking about this Chiefs defense, but they have been in a lot of areas, especially in the playoffs. And they've played – it's not like they've played awful offenses, dude. They've played the Dolphins, which were one of the more explosive offenses in the league
that's for sure.
during the regular season. Then they played the Bills with Josh Allen. And then they played the
Lamar
Ravens with
Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. Again, so you're talking 3 top 10 at the very least quarterbacks and 3 top 10 offenses, and they shut them all down.
Yeah.
Right? So the major weakness for the Chiefs, though, is this. They give up 4.5 yards per carry right now. And that happens to be a great strength for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
So I will expect the 49ers to attack them in the run game relentlessly, right?
I hope so.
Against the Ravens, they stopped the run early, and then they zoned up the middle of the field, which forced Lamar to hold the ball. So here's a great look at it.
That's true.
I would expect the Chiefs to be in a lot of fronts that look like this, right? Some 5-man fronts. Now, on the motion, they get back to a 4-man front, but you get play action. Whose offense does that look like? Play action attacking the middle of the field. The Niners, right?
Yeah.
But now look at the athleticism on the back end and the linebackers of being able to take away that middle of the field. So now what does Lamar have to do? He's got to hold the ball and think something's coming open deeper. But once you do that, it gives you pass rush time. So now they get the sack fumble. Again, watching it from Lamar's angle, he thinks off the play action he's going to have this deep dig coming open. He wants it right now. But the coverage, right, the guys are getting back. Then he's ready to uncork a deep one. At that point, it's too late. He's held the ball for too long.
Yeah,
so
that's for sure.
When the Chiefs stop the run, they're so good on the back end that it's really hard to play against them in that scenario when you become one-dimensional and you can only throw the ball.
Yeah, that's tough.
I think the key for this side of the ball is going to come down to this. Can the Chiefs stop the run consistently enough to let their secondary shine? If I was giving a team an edge, I give the edge here to the 49ers. I think that 49ers run game, Shanahan having 2 weeks to prepare, I think he has a little leg up there on Spagnuolo. And if they can run the ball early and often, they won't get in these passing situations. They'll force the Chiefs to come up and play man coverage
and break them over the top.
a lot. That's hard to do, right? You get play action. It's gonna really stress the secondary out. So if they can stop the run, keep themselves in the too high shell, allow them to take away the middle of the field, okay, now you're cooking with gas, I think, if you're the Chiefs defense. But I don't know that they're gonna be able to do that, quite frankly. I think the Chiefs run offense is too good.
Yeah, I hope. That's one thing I wish we saw last week too with the Ravens. They 2 weeks ago, they ran the ball like 8 times or something that everyone was talking about, which
They
is
didn't
crazy.
stick to it. That's why I was critical of Todd Monken and said the game plan wasn't good.
Yeah.
So let's go to the flip side. You got some Chiefs prop bets that you like.
Yeah. So I was doing a little research, dug a little deep. I did it with the Niners as well. I missed a bet too. I was gonna mention. I kind of like Christian McCaffrey receiving yards. He's played the Chiefs twice in his career. First time he got like 34, and the other time he got like 82 or something crazy when he was on the Panthers. So I kind of like that one as well. His line sits around like 35. It's a little high, but if one thing says anything, they kind of go back to that. So that's another one you could keep your eyes open on. But for the Chiefs, Patty Mahomes has played the Niners, I believe, twice. And the times he's played him, he went 24 of 38 for 314, 25 for 34 for 423, and he had 3 touchdowns in both those games. So that right there alone tells me let's just take the yards on him. He's going to be throwing the ball all day. Some things never change, you know what I mean? And I think you kind of have some proof to that statement. And considering they lost Hufanga at one point in time to an ACL, that kind of, feeds the fire. And so his yards 264.5. I'm running with that. You could even, if you feel ballsy, take the 1.5 passing touchdowns. Let's throw that on there too. Why not? Let's see. Travis Kelce. He's got to show out for his girl. You know what I mean? He's the best. He's got the best hands on the squad. And not only that, he's back in the Super Bowl. Could be a last one for the guy. Could be a last game here. Who knows? So 71.5 on his receiving yards. I like that. You could also take a touchdown from him. One of the two. I was watching, I think, NFL Network at the gym, and they were saying in all his games he's done in the Super Bowl, he's either had over 100 yards or at least a touchdown. So one of
Hmm.
those is bound to hit, maybe even both. Why
Yeah.
not? Why not change that now? And then lastly, we're gonna take our guy Isaiah Pacheco, his yards at 67.5. If we saw anything from that Lions game 2 weeks ago, is they ran for like 182 yards on those dudes with two backs. Isaiah Pacheco's their main dude, runs angry. You know what I mean? If they got to stop him in order to get things working out for them. So I like his yards. See what's going on with that, because 182 is between two dudes, and they barely snuck that one out. You know, if they don't win, which who knows how we look at that right now, and then he might be running all over them boys. So those are my Chiefs props bets this week.
Okay. I'm with it. I really like the Mahomes over the 264.5. I do think he's going to play well. And, Kelsey feels like a safe bet
Yeah,
in any game right
definitely.
now, the way he's playing. So let's look at the Chiefs O versus the 49ers defense now. The Chiefs offense right now starts and ends with Travis Kelsey. He's
Yep.
been truly the only consistently reliable target for Mahomes throughout the season.
Yeah,
That's been so
especially
true
now.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, right now, believe it or not, at 34 years old, he's really close to where he could set a career high in playoff yards and touchdowns if he had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Um, he would need 99 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl to set playoff career highs. He's
Jeez.
at 23 catches on 27 targets, 262 receiving yards. That's already good for third best in his playoff career,
Uh-huh.
with 1 game to go here. And then he has 3 touchdowns. That would also be tied for third.
That's
So
crazy.
if he gets, or tied for second actually in touchdowns. If he gets 1 touchdown, he'd be tied for his, 4 touchdowns, the most he's had in a playoff in his career. And so if he got 2, he could break it. So that's how good he's been. He's beaten zone. He's so savvy right now that if you play zone, he's going to find the hole. He's beaten man, and part of it has been like, again, the savviness of understanding like, oh, I'm gonna make you turn your hips, but I know Pat's gonna put it on my back shoulder, and I'm gonna wait to go find that ball, right?
Yeah.
Or I my release is so good that I'm gonna get that one step on you, and I know that's all I need. So he's just been so good in the playoffs. He's beaten guys like Kyle Hamilton and Jordan Poyer, who are some of the better safety matchups you could have. But you combine that with the emergence of Rashee Rice as a
Mhm.
legitimate threat throughout the playoffs, the ability of Pacheco to be efficient in the run game. He's averaging 4.6 yards a carry, scoring a touchdown in each of their playoff games. You put all that together, the Chiefs are super dangerous. When we saw them play the Raiders on Christmas Day, I don't think anyone thought this was a Super Bowl caliber offense.
Yeah.
They've
That's
figured
for
it
sure.
out. I mean, Andy Reid, Mahomes, all those guys I just talked about, they figured it out. And I think people wrote them off a little too early, obviously, right?
Yep. They didn't
You
write back.
know, you look at the 49er defense on the flip side, they've struggled to generate the same pressure with their front four. I mentioned this earlier, as they
Yeah.
have in years past. They had their lowest pass rush total since 2020, their lowest pass rush total points. It's a stat that anybody can go look up on 33rd team, which I highly recommend if you want more advanced stats. You want to dig into some stuff. 33rd team has got some really good stuff. Um, they have similar sack numbers this year, right? They have 48 sacks.
Uh-huh.
Last year they had 44. The year before they had 48. So they haven't had too big of a difference in their sack numbers, but they're facing a lot more passes this season. They're facing almost the most passes in the league per game. So
Jeez.
they rank 20th in sack percentage. They're also
That's
giving up
tough.
63.35% completion percentage and over 230 passing yards per game. Now,
Mm.
stylistically, they've changed obviously a little bit under Steve Wilks from what they were under D'Amico Ryans. Ryans loves to be in too high pre-snap, and they play a lot of quarters, right? So over 50%, 56 exact, was of his defense was too high quarter stuff. Whereas Steve Wilkes, he likes being in a one high a lot more, right? Middle of the field closed instead of open, which means generally, you usually have more guys closer to the box, or you're playing cover one, you're playing man, right?
Yeah.
He's been in a one high look 46% of the time this year. And what they try and do is they may even start one high, roll the two high, right? They like to disguise their coverage a little more than what the Niners were doing under DeMeco Ryans. Once again, a lot of that data I found on 33rd team. But, this has produced mixed results throughout the year. I think the 49er reliance on a four-man rush hasn't always paid off like it did in previous seasons. They still have the big names, but the Bosas and the Chase Youngs and the Armsteads, they're not getting home like they were. They're not running the same games up front. I think that's one thing that separates DeMeco Ryans from a lot of people. Like the games he dialed up on third downs, where we looked at that a bunch last year.
In Houston,
we're not seeing that same stuff. It's a lot more like one-on-one jet rush, like you beat your guy, right? And they're just not winning as much. I think if they want to be successful against Mahomes and the Chiefs, it's no different than any other great quarterback we've ever talked about. You want to keep as many guys in coverage as possible, but you also don't want to give them all day, so you got to get pressure. So can you consistently get pressure without sending more than 4? And then you got to believe Fred Warner is going to be huge against
definitely
Kelsey and McKinnon, right? And McKinnon activated this week, will be back. But those guys in the passing game, Fred Warner's the matchup, right? That you're going to see more often than not. So we look at these two teams. Let's look at the tape. I talked a lot here, but let's really look at the tape. Okay, so I talked about Travis Kelsey. Okay, and then if you're looking at this, the Ravens are in cover one. Okay, one high safety. He's free in the middle of the field. He's going to read Mahomes. Everyone else is in man coverage. The two linebackers here, right? They're going to send 4, and they're going to play boys with the two linebackers, what we always called boys, back out your side, right? So if the back goes out to my side as a linebacker, I've got him. If I'm the opposite backer, I play like a low hole technique, right? I may spy Mahomes, sit in the low hole for the unders, right? Try and help take away that stuff so we don't get picked, okay? The Chiefs are going to run a mesh concept. And so really, Travis Kelsey is a clear route here. He's just running the vertical seam, right, from that wing position. You're going to get the dig from the tight end next to him. Rashee Rice is also going to run the in route, the in breaker underneath. And then you're going to run the under, and the back is going to motion. Pacheco's going to motion over, and you're going to see Pacheco's going to run underneath that under, and he's going to pick the linebacker who's supposed to take him with that under route. And Pacheco's actually wide open on this play. But Mahomes to Kelsey's so good that Mahomes just says, I've got one-on-one with Kelsey. I'm throwing it to him. So if you watch it, it's pretty funny because it's pretty rare that you run an offensive play that's so good you could have scored a touchdown 2 ways. Check this out. See Pacheco? His man's getting picked. So Pacheco is wide open over here on the left.
It's an easy
Doesn't matter because Mahomes is like, I've got one-on-one. I don't care that that's all pro safety Kyle Hamilton. It's my guy, Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
And Hamilton's actually on top. But Kelsey knows this. He's no dummy. And he and Mahomes have such great chemistry. Back shoulder, and it's a touchdown. That's ridiculous. That was covered. Pacheco was open. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And here's a better view of them getting picked. Roquan Smith got Roquan Smith got picked bad. Didn't matter because Kelsey's so good. Okay, so let's go to another play in the second half. All right, so once again, the Ravens, I told you they struggled in man coverage in this game. They're playing man again, cover one. Okay, and this is what makes playing man against these Chiefs so hard. And if you have to bring more than 4, you likely have to play some more man, which puts you in these tough situations because Andy Reid is so good at designing stuff to beat you. Okay, so once again, you're going to see back out your side from the linebackers, one high safety. Everyone else is playing man. Now they're tighter to the line of scrimmage. Everyone's essentially pressing or near pressing, right? On the outside of the bottom of the screen, you're just going to get switch release verticals. Okay. We're going to get Travis Kelsey as the number 3 player in the 3x1. He's going to run the under, but he's really running it to pick for Rashee Rice again. and then they're going to motion Pacheco over to verify that it is truly cover one with them playing back out your side, and you're going to see Pacheco run to the flat. Now watch, this time Kelce is the decoy, because watch how the defense reacts. Remember when I told you the backers, whoever doesn't have the back, he's going to play a low hole, and he's going to actually try and help to keep from getting picked. But watch what happens. They motion Pacheco over. They run him to the flat. That linebacker's fine. He's in great position. Here come the unders, Rice and Kelce. Oh, look at that. Kelce's savvy. He picks him but doesn't actually touch him.
Yeah.
And now Patrick Queen's like, oh, I got to stay with Kelce. And then the man coverage player has been beat by Rashee Rice. Now look at that. Rashee Rice gets a catch and run for a first down, critical third down in that game. Huge play. And that's why it happens, because everyone's so worried about Travis Kelce, right?
Yeah, true.
They even covered the back this time. On the last play, right?
Yeah, Roquan's out
But
there
again,
with him.
this is the brilliance of Andy Reid combining what his players
that
do
one
best
step right there is crazy
with what you're seeing from the defense. Okay, so now we go to the Niners, and here's some stuff that they were doing. And these are the kinds of things that they may be able to do to stop the Chiefs. When you look at the look initially, and we'll go back to the drawing part of it, it looks like Fred Warner's coming, right? It looks like they're going to bring a five-man pressure, bring Fred Warner with Chase Young off the edge and Bosa off the edge, right? Instead, they're actually going to drop both Chase Young and Fred Warner and bring Drake Greenlaw. So it's only a four-man rush. They keep seven in pressure in coverage, but this is what I was talking about, where you're going to show, right, simulated pressure to one side, drop out, bring someone to the other. Right, this is that new school defensive football. You got to simulate pressure from one side, bring it from the other, so you disguise where things are coming from. And then they're just going to play an inverted cover two look. That's all it is. Inverted cover two, with the safety kind of playing the robber in the middle of the field, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. Now watch what happens to Jared Goff. Really watch Fred Warner. So he looks like he's coming. He drops out. Goff wants this throw right here, but who gets in his vision? Fred Warner. So he has to pull it down. He realizes what the coverage is. He thinks he's getting pressure. I'm going to throw where the pressure came from. Oh, crap, Fred Warner's there. I have to pull this down. Oh, no, I'm getting sacked by Joey Bosa. So this is where we talk about the Niners have to be creative to help themselves get pressure with four. And Steve Wilkes did a better job of this as the game went on. Really look at Fred Warner from the behind angle, because you can see what Goff saw. He wants that throw, Greenlaw? And he's Greenlaw
on the other angle.
Pressure.
On the other angle, it looked like he got up there to like try to bat that ball down, but on that side, it didn't look all too crazy.
No. So ultimately, I think the Niners, if they're creative to help themselves get that pressure with four, they have a shot here. But they also are going to need to be able to stop the run early, right? Because they've also, like the Chiefs, struggled stopping the run. And then also they have to find a way to generate pressure on Mahomes without sending 5 or 6. And then what's your game plan for stopping Kelce? That's the other part of this side of the ball. So just like I thought there's an advantage for the Niners when they're on offense, I think there's an advantage for the Chiefs when they're on offense. So that may indicate where I'm leaning here in terms of the over-under. I like the advantages both offenses have. All right. Yeah. So as we get looking at final score predictions here, Jody, where are you leaning right now?
So my final answer to this question of over-under was going to be the over. I like the Chiefs winning the game. Unfortunately enough,
I convinced him. I converted him.
No, I gone against them the whole playoffs. There's no point for me to keep doing that just out of spite. You know what I mean? I truly do think they're going to win. So I take the Chiefs 31. I got the Niners at 27.
Okay. Similar score here. We're both saying that the teams will linger around the 30s, which means we really like the over. I think I'm with you in agreement, unless that we have a lot of turnovers or the defenses play above their head the way that they've played. in the playoffs. And I know that I just got through talking about how well the Chiefs have played
Yeah,
defensively in the playoffs. So I get that, but that no one's really forced them to stop the run yet is the big thing. And they didn't
true.
stop the run against the Bills. That's why the Bills put up 24 points on them. But I like both offenses to score. I like it to get near the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it feels like it's going to be a close game to me. I don't think either team blows the other out. The way I see it, I like Purdy to kind of come up clutch and everyone likes it. Like, oh, he did it to put him up like 31-30, but then he leaves Mahomes too much time. And Mahomes goes
Yeah.
back and he actually does do it. So I've got Chiefs 33, Niners 31. Game-winning field goal for the Chiefs, Harrison Butker, to win the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, all I could hope for is that good game, good
Yeah.
points, hit that bet, and then, make the game real interesting.
Good game,
But
good food. It's a good Super Bowl Sunday.
exactly. But speaking of random bets, you know what I mean? We got plenty
Yeah, I
that
did
get
say
rolled.
there's some fun ones here.
Yeah, but there's plenty that get rolled out for the Super Bowl. Gatorade. What color are they drinking? Or not? What do they drink? What color gets dumped on the coach? But I would like to know which ones they're drinking, low key. Heads or tails to start off the game. You know what I mean? Bunch of fun ones that you could look at. So to start off, I'm taking heads. Come on. I know tails never fails, but how often do you see heads win? You know what I mean? It's due. Heads? No, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
The
Obviously, it's
gambler's
50-50,
fallacy.
50-50 on a coin. Don't get me wrong. But I believe Tails has won like 7 years in a row. It's due. It's due.
The
Easy.
gambler's fallacy. But go
Yeah.
ahead. Take heads.
And in terms of Gatorade color, I think, if I remember correctly, I think purple was the favorite because that's one of the colors that the Chiefs have dumped on Andy Reid before. I like orange. Obviously, they're both colored in red. I think orange seems like a good play. It's been chosen a few times out of the last like 5 years. I think it just makes sense. Both teams are colored red. They're not going to be drinking yellow. Blue or purple has a shot. I think those are truly the best ones that you can make from the big jug. I don't know if you would say the same from us playing, but I think orange is the
I
final
just
answer.
I gotta interject here and just I may alienate some fan base here, but when we're betting on the Gatorade bath color, I'm sorry, you're a degenerate. The
No, you're not
analysis just
wrong.
now on the Gatorade color had me rolling, dude. I there's nothing else I can say. I mean,
Yeah, no, I
there's
get it.
no analysis, dude. This is luck of the draw here.
No, it is. But I mean, if it's plus money, why not take it?
All right, all right.
It's the classic math, where it's the
Yeah, sure.
expected return. If you do X amount, you're expected to win this amount. Like more often than not, you're expected to lose when you play like slots or whatever. But the one time you
Yeah.
win, you know what I mean?
All right, all right. Keep giving me some absurd prop bets here. Let's
Yeah,
go. Let's keep
yeah.
it
All right.
rolling.
So another one that happens early on is they had some for both Patty Mahomes and Brock Purdy, and then the other matchup was Travis Kelsey and Christian McCaffrey. When you sing "America the Beautiful," I think what makes sense to me is we're gonna see Travis Kelsey before Christian McCaffrey, and we'll probably even see Taylor Swift
You
before
might
we
you
see
might
Christian
see
McCaffrey.
Kelsey first. He's like the most
Yeah,
famous football player in America right now.
that's what I'm saying. So we'll see him,
Yeah,
and then we'll see probably Taylor Swift before we even see Christian McCaffrey. So
you're
I'm
probably
taking
right.
take Travis Kelsey on that one. Another one is the time frame of how long it takes to sing the song. I think this
This one's
one
always funny to me.
I think this one is actually the national
Shortest in like a
anthem.
while, right? Yeah, the national anthem. I think it's the shortest over under on the national anthem for a Super Bowl in like years.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Well, it sits at 1 minute and 28 seconds. I was just gonna take the over. I don't know who Reba Wilson is. I don't know what type of music she sings, but I'm assuming it's gonna take a while. So I'm taking the over
Okay.
on that one.
Okay.
And then I got two more for you. One more that I'm gonna look at right now is the longest penalty that'll be given on a given play. So it sits at 15 and a half. Clearly, if you get a PI, that's
PI.
15. If it's anything longer, it means it happened farther down the field. Put the ball up there. And so I'm saying yes, that happens. Why not?
You're saying there's
And
going
there's
to be a
gonna
PI for 16 plus
for
yards.
yeah, exactly, easily.
All right.
It's gonna happen, especially probably critical late in the game, causes some
Yeah.
controversy. Wouldn't be surprised.
Probably for the Chiefs, if we're being honest.
If I had to guess, yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
and to close out these random bets that we're looking at is gonna be Drake. Do you think he's wearing the Chiefs, or do you think he's gonna rock for the Niners? I think if you wanna be
This
honest.
is this is extremely funny because my man Drake is trending today for maybe the wrong
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah, he was
I'm not saying
he wa
anything
he was
else
he
about
was
that.
he was doing some he was playing pool, you know what I mean? But I I think my guy's gonna I think truly if I was doing this objectively, I think he would rock for the Niners considering the Bay Area is a lot more prominent in terms of music. But
I can't focus on anything you're saying because you said he was playing pool. I can't. You,
bro,
I'm gone. I'm done. I'm no good anymore. Oh no. I mean, he's a bandwagoner. He's got to wear the Chief stuff.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think if in
Oh,
terms of music, I think he would have to look towards the Niners. But if in terms of who he wants to win, I think he wants the Chiefs to win, and that's where he's gonna
all
make
right.
money, especially since they're underdog. He's gonna put a lot on stake. I'm assuming. That's where I'm going with that one
All
to
right.
round
Well,
out the fun props.
we'll close it out here before we get ourselves in trouble. Um, we just want to say we hope you enjoy your Super Bowl Sunday. Hope after you listen to this, you feel ready to see all the action. You're ready with your prop bets. You're ready with the strategy of the game that's going to go in. With both teams, you know what to look for. I challenge you. Watch matchups. Don't always watch the ball. It's a fun way to watch football, and when you start doing it, you learn a lot more.
Yeah.
But enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday, and let's hope there's good food, good football. That's all we can ask for.
Some good
And
commercials because I feel like we missed out on those a little bit
good
recently.
good commercials. Good commercials, yeah, for sure. And we'll let our guy Ray take us out until we see you after the Super Bowl.
Yes, sir.